You're so cute. Okay, wait, how do
No,
I
congrats on your house before we start anything.
what? Oh, on my house?
Yes,
So
congrats.
thanks, love. Yeah, we moved in on Saturday. I'm so excited. Oh my
Oh, well,
I
thanks for
can't
even
wait
taking the
to
time to do this.
Oh yeah. No, I can't wait to be out of this rental house. Like everything's just in shambles at the moment, so it'll be good once we actually get it.
Good, I bet. Oh.
Wait, so can you turn sideways so you're a little bigger, or what do you think?
Yeah, I can, except for I feel like, yeah, I have like a lamp behind me because I know it is like late. And then I don't want my phone.
Either way, actually, either way works. Yeah, that way, at least now you're up and down.
Yeah, exactly. No problem.
I think that's good. Okay, love. Well, will you introduce yourself to everyone on my platform and what you do, because we're both nurses.
Yeah.
Found each other, and just ever since you reached out to me on my channel and on my Instagram, I just feel like we were connected right from the beginning, and you've always been so sweet, and like obviously we share our faith together.
Yeah, we do.
So, yeah, so just introduce yourself and kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So I'm Tatenda, and I'm currently a derm nurse for a dermatologist here. But I have about 6 years experience in the hospital, some in the float pool, but mainly in the ICU towards the end of my career in the hospital.
I think that's so amazing because, I mean, you've seen my video about when I was sick, right?
Yeah, I have, and I think that's so incredible that you can give back after that, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was just going to say, like, it's being a patient in ICU myself, it blows my mind. ICU nurses blow my mind because, like, truly, I was so sedated the entire time. But like dealing with the family and helping people through like some of the hardest times in their life, like ICU is just, I don't know. I think you guys are so stars.
That's so sweet. Thank you. But that's actually a conversation that I've been having a lot with some nurses that I see at my current clinic right now that I used to work with. Just like the idea of like, also even my switch is kind of cool to be able to like have a different sort of like bedside manner per se versus like 100% or not 100%, let's say like 90% dealing with family members versus like you still talk to your patient like they're a person and they're more aware, of course, but at the same time, it's just a different dynamic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about how you switched from MICU. You were in the MICU, right?
SICU, mainly.
SICU. Okay.
Yeah.
So you switched from that into doing what you're doing now.
So about 2.5 years ago, I just kind of got really into the idea. I have watched influencers just like yourself for 10 plus years. And some of the times that was like during the hardest time of my life. And so I just thought it was such a cool idea to give back in that realm. So what I did was explore the idea of creating a blog. And I thought that the perfect niche for myself would be skincare because I kind of care a lot about self-care outside of my career. So I focused on that for a little while. And, you know, about 2.5 years ago, aesthetics, cosmetics, derm was kind of like the in thing. Yep. And so I sort of did my research and I was like, wow, I'm kind of like perfect for this. Also, the ICU and just you, as you understand, working in a hospital, the schedule, I have a 6-year-old daughter. And your schedule is you have to work every other weekend. Those hours are crazy. If anything happens in the hospital, you have to stay. Yeah, so I had to work every other weekend, 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if anything is crazy. And I was at, the county hospital where I stay at, so that dynamic is a little bit different too. It's kind of a lot going on. And I just thought, this is perfect. My blog aligning with my passion for skincare and then ending up where I'm at right now has been a really awesome change for me. It's just really following my passion and kind of following the idea of having more time at home with the career that I love.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's so incredible. And like, same exact thing. All of you guys on my channel know that I experienced the same exact thing with the hospital working. And I had a pretty basic schedule, which was nice, but it's nice to be where I am at now because I get to combine like social media with being a nurse all into one, which is obviously the end goal.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And still get to help people, obviously.
Exactly. It's just in a different manner. And I think that's what's the coolest thing about nursing in general is that you can pick anything that you love and, you can thrive as long as you're happy.
That's so true. And having a schedule and like being able to balance your work life, everything together. So.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially for somebody like you who works for yourself at the capacity that you do, it's really nice to have a more maybe even set schedule, even if it's not, any different, just more like, okay, clinic is done. We're done for the day and we're done for the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
and not have
Yeah.
to fall and do all those crazy things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, obviously with everything that's happening in the nation right now, and as a Black woman, I just wanted to get your, I don't know, your take on everything going on in the world. And if you just could say anything like to my platform and you just had, 5 minutes or whatever, what would you just say about healthcare specifically and just kind of your journey through being a Black woman in today's society?
Yeah. Honestly, who knows if I would ever be able to do that in exactly 5 minutes. There's so many different aspects of it, and there's just so many different, even individual perspectives as a Black person.
Right.
So I'll kind of give you a breakdown on my take as a Black woman in life in general. I am weird because I typically don't check some of the boxes for some people of color to consider me just like them. But I also don't check the same boxes as people that don't look like me, right? So I've always kind of lived in like this weird
limbo.
Limbo, exactly. So sometimes even getting it from my own peers where I'm called like an Oreo, black on the outside but white on the inside. And then exactly. But then also the other where it's like they wouldn't see that at all, right? Because they just see me for the color of my skin. So specifically in healthcare, you can kind of break it down more easily on like the level of you have your patients that can, give you some, honestly, just being honest, pushback, a lot of pushback, but some of it is very blatant and it's very obvious and it's very straightforward because the role of the patient is that they don't have to remain professional. So at the end of the day, they can say whatever they want to say and they think it's like fine, right? And then you have your coworkers where it's like they have to remain professional, but there's still other ways in which you experience it. And then actually there's a third portion that I guess I could touch on a little bit where you see the difference in similarities in, let's say, conditions of patients and the difference in how physicians manage each patient. And exactly. So you see that where I'll kind of touch base on that one a little bit because that one you can get really into, but kind of the idea of, let's talk about specifically narcotics and pain medication. Sometimes there's a lot of judgment towards people that may have, and let's say they could have a chronic illness and that truly is their underlying base. They have a chronic illness. But once they come into the hospital, sometimes there can be the connotation of they are here to refill on a prescription or, they are here seeking drugs, basically. So you do definitely see that on various levels in the hospital. And that's kind of just like the surface of that portion.
And you think that directly relates to the color of people's skin?
Absolutely. Because I really believe that you could even see somebody that isn't a person of color that has a chronic illness with pain medication that would be, treated correctly, if you may, right? Whereas somebody else, there's always that discretion of, is that the motive? Is the drugs the motive? Which is really a sad thing to experience and a sad thing to go through as a person who is helping to provide care. You almost, it affects your morale, to be honest. And I have had a conversation with a few nurses that I used to work with where it's like, when I left the position that I, last left, you kind of get this like small, and it's sad, but like sigh of relief that like, you don't have to like feel like you're constantly being put in these weird positions, but then, in our position, you have no say. You have to do what you're told to do, right? So it's kind of a tough thing there. And then I could kind of hit on patients. I'll tell you, point blank, I've had patients say, I don't want a Black provider. I don't want a Black person touching me, even down to I don't want a Black person to do like cares and, basic cares, nothing huge, basic cares. And luckily, at places that I've worked, I do have and have had the support of people higher than me, charge nurses, CCSs, able to come into rooms and kind of let patients know, like, hey, this is what we include, this is who we hire, this is what we do in these facilities. So you kind of have to deal with it, but it still doesn't really make you feel that good to kind of experience some of that. Yeah, and then also as a patient too, and actually, I could give a little side story note. My dad is a physician, and I know he experiences a lot of that where, people ask my dad to bring food trays into a patient room when a patient comes back from testing. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, that was the most recent situation actually that happened to my dad, that he like recently told me about with conversation with everything going on in the world. And it's just kind of like, he's a physician. That's not his job.
Right.
It's not even in his pay grade. And it doesn't mean, you know, you're a bad person if you don't want to do that. He has other responsibilities in his job while he's at work, which he's at. And it's just kind of awful things like that. Another thing that he's told me, people constantly ask, oh, you must be adopted. And it's just like, why? You know?
What?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As a physician. And it's crazy. Because, you know, on his level, not on my level, but, you know, he has a PhD, et cetera. So many more, you know, alphabet soup to his name, right? Than some physicians, et cetera. But they still want to kind of question your educational background, where you came from, what your story is, and why you would be here. Another thing that I would say I experience with patients is like, and this is in life in general, but sometimes specifically patients that you could tell could kind of care less, you know, about you being there, is just like the basic pronunciation of my name. You know, my name is Tatenda. It's spelled how it's said. It could be a little bit tough if it's not familiar to you, but I mean, you could spell it out and kind of figure it out. And you can always ask, you know, and kind of just like, I feel like the blatant disregard to even referring to somebody as their name is, you know, it's almost like a respect thing in a little way, you know what I mean? And when you blatantly are mispronouncing somebody's name because you could kind of care less about them being there, that also is something tough to experience.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
And so then, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The last part that I could kind of touch on for a few minutes is just kind of coworkers. And like I said, it's a little bit tough to decipher that one because people have to remain professional to a certain extent. But
Good job.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the SICU where I used to work is, you know, directly corridor across from the MICU. And sometimes we would get floated to that unit depending on census and other things like that. And I have very blatantly experienced from coworkers, specifically on the unit, that don't work with me on my day-to-day, because that's the thing that sucks. You have to prove yourself. And if you are in a unit or in a place consistently where you prove yourself and they know like, oh, hey, you know, Tatenda will come in here, she'll work her shift and she'll leave, then you kind of are at ease. But when you're going somewhere where you feel as though people don't know your work ethic, people don't know kind of what you know and what you don't know, everybody just kind of assumes that you don't know anything.
Wow.
Or make just snarky remarks, or just try to like report certain things. I've experienced nurses always trying to report, you know, coworkers that are maybe like lazy in their mindset or whatever. And typically those people are always people of color. It's never really, you know, a person that's not. And those things are kind of obvious to those of us that are of color, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, even in the operating room, like I experienced, I don't know, I guess it's like judgment, criticism, just based off of what I choose to do with my time outside of work. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
yeah.
The way that people can, and I obviously am a white woman, like the way people can tear you down and make you feel in healthcare in general is so like sadistic. Like it's just so evil and rude and like so uncalled for. And to just hear you say those things that like you feel like you have to prove yourself every day, and the thing with the patient saying little comments like that, like, I just can't imagine feeling like you've already worked so hard to get where you are. Like you said, your dad's a physician. You know, you put yourself into this type of educational system. You got yourself to where you wanted to be all on your own. You know, you did that.
Right, exactly.
Like we all did to get to where we are. And to have people on a daily basis just degrade you or say little comments, even if you have super tough skin, which I'm sure you do. You're super confident.
You have to, though. You know, you have to.
Yeah, you have.
And it's kind of a sad thing that's been a conversation too, and that I think some people kind of don't understand. But really, truly, when you are a person of color, and my dad raised us all like this, you have a target on your back. I mean, I've been raised like that. I've been raised, you have a target on your back. So I'm definitely the person that like shows up to work earlier than other people, all those things, because that's been instilled in me that like, hey, you have to operate at that capacity or else you're going to stand out as being lazy or whatever the case may be. Now, I will say there are some benefits to that. There are some great things that you know, get from kind of understanding the lineage of a good work ethic, but at the same time too, when you really break it down and think about it, it can be, you know, mentally straining that, you know, there's a reason to this, and not just that I'm a good person or that I want to be doing this. And for me, that's kind of really hard too, because I try really hard in my life to live a very positive life and do the best that I can towards other people, regardless if I'm at work or if I'm at the grocery store. So then to sometimes break that down and realize that like, hey, but some of that people, you know, want to see that from you in order to treat you a certain way. And if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be treated a certain way.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny that you say that too, because I think the reason we do get along so well is because that's exactly how I live my life. You know, like I truly try to be positive every day at work, at school, at anywhere I am, grocery store,
yes,
driving by someone in the car, like regardless. And so I think that's why we get along so well. But as a person of color, what would you say to maybe your other coworkers or nurses that, you know, because I try to live my life that way, but does that mean that because I haven't been an advocate for Black Lives Matter or, you know, like anti-racism in general, just because I live in my own little bubble and I'm positive, I love everyone, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What advice could you give to people that feel like they love everyone and want to be positive influence on the world, and if they even have a platform to share something on, what would you say to just continue to help with the movement and continue to spread positivity and love? And
this is actually cool because this is a conversation that I've been having recently too. And, you know, I'll be honest and say this. I, you know, may not be right, but I really truly believe, I compare it to kind of like growing up in a house of apples and oranges. If you grow up in a house of apples and oranges, when you leave, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate them, but it's because you were exposed to it, right? So I feel as though that really is what racism is. And it's a sad thing because we can stand here and say that, hey, in this past couple of weeks, we've been standing by Black Lives Matter, but I am going to be 26 this year. And in 26 years, I've experienced racism from so many different angles of life that it's, you know, you have a filter to it and you're aware of it, right? And so the fact that people are just now being brought aware to this situation, it's kind of a weird thing because here's the thing, it's in people's bones, some people, you know what I mean? It really is who they are.
If you're not exposed to it, you just like, you don't think, and I think this is what the realization for so many people is you just don't think it's happening on a daily basis to so many people anymore.
Exactly.
And we're like, oh, that's history, we understand it, but it's like, I think so many guys are just being open to the fact that this is so constant to so many people on so many levels, like you said, and it's not stopping. Like
exactly.
This entire time.
Exactly. So my biggest advice, honestly, to most people has been like what we're doing, like having these hard conversations and not necessarily focusing on, I would say, generations of people that are racist. Because here's the thing, unfortunately, it's real. One day they're not going to be here. So if we want to make a change, exactly. So if you can't teach an old dog new tricks, you know, it's a very true saying, and it's sad. Because at the same time, like, it really is ignorance and just kind of hate in your heart, which I really don't understand. I can't resonate with it at all. So with that being said, it's just like having these conversations, you know, one day you're going to have children, teaching your children, you know, what is right and what is wrong, because that's what this boils down to. At the end of the day, we are in a world of blue, brown, orange, purple people, right? And if we can fix our hearts and treat people the right way according to our hearts, then that way you can be really good.
Yeah.
You know, moving forward.
Yeah.
Sorry, my sister just walked in here.
Hi, sister.
No, right now, I need it. Okay, go ahead.
No, I think that was perfectly said, and
I need light. There isn't any.
She's taking your lamp.
Yeah, she's taking my lamp. It's okay, go ahead. Yeah, but anyways, just having those hard conversations, talking to people, you know, like I said, teaching your youth, people around you, being just like you have this platform, and you know, you exude like good personality, positive vibes, happiness. And that's a huge thing, because I think a lot of that has to do with like misery, to be honest. It's a sad thing to say, but if you are sitting here judging other people, especially on something as silly as the color of their skin, you probably need to look in the mirror. Because I mean, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think there is something to be said about, you know, like if you do grow up in a house where all you know is a certain thing and vice versa, and you were taught from such a young age, like, I mean, this is what's going to happen to you. You need to act this type of way, or this is going to, you know.
Right, yep.
Grow up in two totally different households. It doesn't mean that moving forward, all of all of this movement has to go away. It's like all of this movement is so that we can teach the next generations and our
Exactly.
continue to spread that love
Exactly.
and like zero judgment towards any type of skin color. So I think
exactly. And you know, I know we have these kind of conversations sometimes on Instagram and stuff,
Yeah.
but I have said from the beginning that, you know, somebody bigger than you and I was having their way with the world when COVID hit. I thought that when COVID hit. And then when all of this happened, it's like, here's the thing. The world would have never been silent at any other time to hear something that we've been going through, that it's been loud and clear to us. And so for me, I feel like, you know, these are tough times. These are tough conversations. But I keep saying, like, what a time to be alive. Like, what a thing to stand by. What a, you know, because this would have never, George Floyd was not the first Black man to be killed, you know, or in a brutal manner. And those things aren't necessarily highlighted in the media, but we know about them. You know what I mean? Because it's personal, or it's a friend's brother, or it's your friend's dad, or, you know, something like that.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I don't know, like Ryan and I have been having so many conversations very similar to that, just like how crazy it is that we all were stuck in our houses for so long, and then something so, you know, like you said, has happened so many times before in history, was so impactful to so many people, and then we were all like stuck in our homes and not being able to socialize with all these people and all these things, and then we have all these emotions coming through, anxiety, depression, feelings,
Exactly.
wanting to just interact with other human beings. And so then this whole movement was so much bigger than maybe it could have been at this given time in history. And it's been so impactful to so many people, and I think it's continue to do so.
Yeah, I think it's so cool and it's so huge. And I just think moving forward, every single one of us, you know, even people of color, we need to educate ourselves, because this is not a time, this I want to say to people of color, because this is not a time to hate on any other group of people just because it's being highlighted that, you know, we have been under these scrutinizing situations and positions and times in our life. It's just a time to say, like, hey, this is going on. It's not right. You know, this is humanity, but we all need to find a way to all be able to move forward together and be able to live, you know, as a nation where just people are equal. And you don't have to be feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm a person of color, you know, am I going to be judged, or whatever the case may be.
That's such a good point, once again. And I think it's a good thing to mention too, because I don't know, like you hear, I've heard personally a lot of white people coming onto their channels or coming onto Instagram and just like, you know, saying I'm sorry and this and that, and that's amazing. And if you can stand behind that and continue to educate yourself and not just be the person that one time comes on your channel and says I'm sorry for not knowing about this, you know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
It's like of course this has moved a lot of people in so many ways, and I think that's incredible. But like you said, it has to be a heart change, and if it is a heart change for you, then I would just say, like, yeah, continue to educate yourself and continue to love people. I don't know, regardless of what you guys believe, but love people the way that Jesus loved people.
Exactly. Exactly.
Spread positivity.
The United States is one nation under God. So if you're under God, you're going to love every single person as, you know, God loves his people himself. And that's another little point to highlight on. Another thing that I would say, not even just to people of color, whether you have good intentions or not, if it is uncomfortable, don't say anything. Like, you know what I mean? And I know that people find that kind of hard too, because some people are like, well, everybody should stand by this movement, but not everybody does. And that's, you know, it's okay in its own realm. You can choose to do whatever you want to do and stand by whatever you want to stand by. But some of those I'm sorry's and some of those little comments, it's just like, it's obvious that you went out of your way to create something to say right now to make yourself relevant in this time, when like you were probably better off just remaining irrelevant in this time.
Just not saying anything, because the point is to get people of color and their voice heard, because they haven't been heard for so long.
Exactly. And a lot of those sorries are like sorries from resurfaced comments in people's past. And for me, I have a very hard time with that, because I do believe in growth. I do believe in change. I do believe in change of heart to a certain extent. But if 2 years ago you were tweeting something racist and today Black Lives Matter and now you're apologizing, come on.
Right. Like everyone's been through that, and totally.
So yeah, but I do think that this world is gonna, you know, it's not a sunny Sunday morning, but life doesn't change on a sunny Sunday morning. You know what I mean? We kind of got to go through some hard things to get to some things. And I think that we'll get there, you know, we'll get there.
Yeah. I think at the end of the tunnel is hopefully a united nation and no more separation, hopefully. I mean, maybe
Right.
it's not our generation, our kids' generation, maybe the generation after that. But it definitely is going to be impactful. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that you came on here.
I'm grateful to be talking to you, Maddie. You're such an awesome person. You always exude positivity, like I said. And honestly, that's a huge thing for me. It's, you know, you're somebody where like I'm having this conversation, and some of these conversations can be hard because sometimes, you know, as a person of color, like, hey, this person truly doesn't care. You know, no matter how large your audience is or whatever the case may be, you always reach out to me. You always have sweet things to say. It's very obvious that you're such a good person. And of course, I would love to have this conversation with you. Nobody better, right?
Well, no, I would say the exact same thing about you. I mean, there's definitely certain people that continuously like reach out on my platform, but there's no one like you. And seriously, like, you always brighten my day. You always, like, whenever you're watching one of my videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, she loves me. I love her.
Yes, I do. I have watched every single one of your videos.
It makes me so happy. And I just think that, like, if nothing else, if you guys don't get anything else from this little video, just like love each other for who they are. And like, I don't know, like, I'm sitting here like looking at your hair and I'm like, I'm so jealous of your hair. Like, now mine needs to be more voluminous.
Thank you.
And, like, just real life, like, we just love each other, and we connected on Instagram. And obviously, I said before, we share our faith, and so that's super special to me. But yeah, I'm just so thankful that you're a nurse and we get to bond on that. And so I'm also 26. Did you know that?
No, I actually did know that. I think I knew that when you posted your birthday vlog, and like, you said the balloons. I saw the balloons where I got you, and I know it made it even better. It's just so cool. We're super similar, and I just really can appreciate that. I also appreciate that you talk about nursing, but something that's huge for me is getting away from that, but still having a positive life and a positive impact, because it's such a career that can swallow you, you know. And so I think it's really cool. Yeah, that you balance. You do that so well. I mean, you really do. I'm sure it's hard, but you do it well.
How do I make it seem that way?
Yeah, I know it.
Always, but
I know it.
You definitely do.
Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for having this conversation with me and even allowing this opportunity on your channel. You know, like I said, I've seen you're very transparent and you have a huge heart. It's right there. And I can really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I just adore you, and we'll have to do this more often. Maybe we can like make this usually on my channel. Yeah, absolutely. Or not recorded. We'll just have our FaceTime. Our conversation. Exactly. Why not? Yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Absolutely, Maddie. Have a good night. Have a good evening. And a good week at work. We're both working our butts off lately. So. I know it. I know. It feels good though, right? It does feel good. It feels good, especially in these times. I've been grateful. I keep saying I'm grateful, even though the world is crazy, to still have that little comfort zone, you know? Absolutely. A constant income and still being able to help people in the way that we didn't know how. Which is exactly. Oh. Okay. All right, Maddie, we'll have a good evening. Love you. Love you. Bye. Bye.